blood vessel na ito ang pinocus. Anong sagot? Anong gusto nilang itanong? Ha? Anything about acute inflammation. Okay? As well, you have hyperemia. Correct. And because of the hyperemia, you will have increased vascular permeability. Basta maraming RBC, may hyperemia ka. Okay? And that is also the cause of calor and rubor in your inflammation. Active hyperemia is the cause of calor and rubor in the inflammation. The edema is caused by increased vascular permeability, or the tumor in inflammation is caused by increased vascular permeability. So this slide can be used in both models of hemodynamic change, in which case your answer will be active congestion and hyperemia. And in the light of inflammation, this is margination, and you have transmigration. Okay? You have the inflammatory cells outside already, or chemotaxis. This is your margination. Titingnan nyo parate kung ano yung nakafocus. Tapos dapat nare-recognize mo na ang blood vessel ang pinocus, marami bang dugo. May neutrophil ba sa tabi? Nasaan yung box? Susunod.
Ano po number do?
14. Tapos 17. 14, 17, 16, 18, 3 and 6. Hemodynamic na ba? Pinapanap. Oh, ito na ang maraming pwedeng itanong na slide. What is this lining epithelium? Anong lining epithelium mo? Eto. It's pseudostratified columnar epithelium with goblet cells and cilia. Where are you? In the respiratory tract, because that is the respiratory lining. Pangit slide. Okay, you have the respiratory tract here. However, what you see are lots of the dots. Di ba maraming black spot, violet spots ito sa ilalim ng epithelium. Okay. Ano ang diagnosis dyan? Pag maraming black spots, yung maraming lymphocytes yan, marami kang lymphocytes. Anong diagnosis mo? Yan, ang mga lymphocytes mo, maraming lymphocytes. Tapos na-recognize mo, ay, respiratory tract to. Ha? Anong meron ka?
Bronchitis.
May hemodynamic change ka ba? May inflammation ka ba? Meron ka bang neoplasia? May inflammation ka. What type of inflammation? Puro lymphocytes, mga kababayan. Ha? Chronic inflammation. Okay? If this is the bronchiole, and this is, and part of the, some of them are the bronchi. This is chronic bronchitis. Okay? Nasaan bang mga alveoli nito na recognizable pa na alveoli ito? This part being shown to you are alveolar sacs. Can you recognize the alveolar sacs? Ito. Ayan, no? Pneumocytes to eh. Okay. Ano-anong meron ka dito? You have hemorrhage, and that's why your alveolar sacs are filled with RBC. Aside from hemorrhage, what do you have here? Itim. You have anthracosis or carbon pigments over here. Aside from the carbon pigment itim, you have this. That's hemosiderin. What do you have? You have chronic passive congestion of the lungs. Okay? Aside from that, likewise, your alveolar septae are reddened because of the presence of lots of RBC. What's in the alveolar septae? You have the pneumocyte lining, a thin fibrovascular core, and the vascular part is composed of a fine network of capillaries for air exchange, correct? The alveolar septum. So if these are distended with RBC as well, what do you have? You have hyperemia. Look at this alveolus over here. Nasaan na yung pointer ko? Can you see my pointer? The teeny-weeny pointer over there. This is an alveolus. Tama. May dugo ka, may inflammatory cells ka sa loob, at meron kang pink na ganito. Pagka puro pink na ganito ang pinoko sa inyo, alveolus na puro pink na ganito ang pinoko sa inyo, they're pointing to the answer of edema. Okay? Edema ang sagot pag puro pink ang nasa loob ng alveolus. Pagka yung brown pigment na kinain ng macrophage, ang hinahanap nilang sagot, chronic passive congestion. Pwede nilang tanong, bakit nagkaganon? Ang sagot, left-sided heart failure. Okay? What are they called? They're called heart failure cells. Okay? So, edema, pag pink lang. Pag dugo, syempre, hemorrhage yun. Kasi wala siya sa loob ng blood vessel. Pag may hemosiderophages, that's chronic passive congestion. Pag may itim na pigment, that's carbon pigment. See, this is edema. Okay? Alveoli. Tapos may pink, amorphous material inside. That's edema. ARDS ito. Patay ang pasyente mo nito. COPD. Hemorrhage. Edema. Okay? That's edema fluid inside the alveoli. The pink stuff. Very different look from the necrotic debris. Kasi ito parang smooth na glassy yung look niya. Yung necrotic debris parang pulbos-pulbos. Pareho sila ng kulay, pink. The diffuse hemorrhage is what you also see when you have a red infarct in the lungs. Yung 17.
16 po yung varicose venous thrombus.
Tapos,
17 po is hemorrhage, ileum with active congestion po.
okay, what tissue are you looking at? Kahit na may problema siya all throughout. Pinapakita sa inyo yung mga layers niya. You have the intestinal or the gastrointestinal portion, a gastrointestinal segment over here. In this case, you have an intestinal segment. Okay? Large ba to? Large intestine? Small intestine? Anong nakalabel? Small daw? Ileum? Bakit walang layers patches? So this is, what are the 4 layers of the gastrointestinal tract? The intestine. You have the mucosa. Separating it from the submucosa, you have the muscularis mucosa over here. So this is the submucosa. What is the pathology seen in the submucosa? Bakit masyadong maluwang ang tissue mo? Maraming spaces in between. Anong pathology yan? Pagka maluwang yung tissue mo. That's edema. Okay? What can you see in the muscular layer? Maraming RBC. Nasa loob siya ng blood vessel o wala? Anong tawag dyan? Hemorrhage. Yung submucosa mo, may hemorrhage din? Yes. Ito, may hemorrhage din siya. May hemorrhage din doon. Yung serosa layer mo, may hemorrhage din. Correct? Punta tayo sa mucosa. Yung mucosa mo, nare-recognize mo pa yung glands? By architecture. Nare-recognize mo pa? O hindi? Nare-recognize nyo pa ba o hindi na? Yung intestinal villi, nare-recognize nyo pa? Yes, by architecture, di ba? But what is wrong with the intestinal villi? There is a problem with the lining epithelium, correct? Tama? Ito, intestinal villi ito eh. Meron pa ba siyang nuclei na nakapila? Kasi tall columnar cells tang lining nito, di ba? Meron pa ba siyang nakapilang tall columnar cells lining the intestinal villi? Wala na. Ano yung nakikita nyo yung violet na bilog-bilog na nandyan? Inflammatory infiltrates. Tama? So, marami bang RBC? May RBC din. So, may RBC ka dito. Nare-recognize mo to because of its architecture, pero wala na siyang sarili niyang nuclei. So, may coagulation necrosis ka, pero marami kang dugo. May dugo ka sa submucosa. May dugo ka sa muscle. May dugo ka naman sa serosal layer. Tama. Puro dugo ka, tapos wala ka ng nuclei sa mucosa mo. This is coagulation necrosis with hemorrhagic necrosis. This is a hemorrhagic infarct or a red infarct. The usual cause is a blockage of an artery supplying a hollow organ. This is the intestine, it's a hollow organ. If you block the superior mesenteric artery, chances are it will undergo infarction. However, since this is a hollow organ, it will not undergo a white infarct, but it will undergo a red infarct. Okay? So this is an example of a red infarct. You have hemorrhagic necrosis, complicating the coagulation necrosis. Cause hypoxia because of a blockage of the supplying artery. It just so happens that the organ being supplied is a hollow organ. This came from the puwet. Mahilig siya sa maaanghang na food. Hindi pala. Deep leg veins ba to? Oo. Sorry, wrong information. Premature information. What can you see here? This is a big blood vessel wall. And there's an injury in an area in the endothelium here. Nakita kayo ng pink material attached to the wall. That's a thrombus formation. Did this happen because the patient died? Or did this happen and that's why the patient died? Is this an antemortem or a postmortem blood clot? Bakit? Nakikita niyo ba to? May mga linya-linya ka? Mapula, matsaka pang pink, pula, pink, pula, pink. Those are the lines of sand, which means that this clot happened before the patient died. It's an antemortem blood clot within the blood vessel, and you should call it a thrombus. Okay, if this slide is going to be shown to you, it will focus in this angle here, showing to you the normal blood vessel wall in an area which is injured and plugged with this pink material. That's the fibrin clot. Okay? This is a fibrin clot in that area over there. If you move the slide around, you will notice that it's only attached to that portion there. It's not attached to this portion over here. Okay? If you are shown something which is attached to the wall, it is referring to a thrombus. If you are shown something which is not attached to the wall, that is referring to an embolus. Okay? So, kung ipapakita sa inyo sa practical exams, ang nakadikit na fibrin clot sa wall, thrombus ang sagot. Kung wala kayong makitang nakadikit sa wall pero may fibrin clot doon, ang hinahanap na sagot ay thromboembolus. Which part of the thrombus usually undergoes thromboembolism? Answer, the tail part, which is usually detached. Bakit may tail ang thrombus? Because of the blood flow. Another question which might be asked if this slide is focused, ano-ano yung pwedeng complications, outcome pala. Ano-ano yung pwedeng outcome? Pwede siyang mag-recanalize, pwede siyang mag-organize, pwede siyang ano-ano pa ba pwede? Pwede siyang mag-propagate, pwede niyang i-block yung complete blockage of the blood vessel, pwede siyang mag-thromboembolism. Usual part na affected for veins, for thrombosis. Ano ang pinaka-usual part? It's the deep leg veins. Yun yung sagot. Okay? Minsan yun yung side question. Okay, this is the one which came from the poet. You have dilated blood vessels distended with blood. Anong diagnosis? Hemodynamic change. Ano? Hyperemia, di ba? Active congestion. Ha? Ay, salamat. Kanina ko nababakli yung mga kamay ko. Ano mo, thrombus?
Thrombus.
Basta sabi ko, pag dilated yung blood vessel, tapos maraming dugo sa loob, it's showing you hyperemia. Okay, nakita niyo yung RBC, bilog-bilog ang RBC. Nakakita na kayo ng thrombus, kulay pink lang siya. Ayun.
Alin dyan?
Kahit ano dyan, yan.
Itong malaki, maliit. Itong maliit mo.
Hindi nga masyado maganda.
Ito.
Manap ka pa. Lower ma.
Yan.
Yan. Okay, you are focused a blood vessel here.
Ito na lang, cursor.
That's a blood vessel. Dr. De La Rosa is tracing the wall of the blood vessel. Tataas muna natin yung screen kasi gagamit ako nito. Konti. Okay na? This is the wall of this blood vessel. In this area here, nakikita nyo to. Yan ang itsura ng dugo. Okay? Ito, that's a thrombus formation or that's a clot, blood clot. Ibang-iba yung itsura, di ba? Oh, ito dugo, ito blood clot. Thrombus ba to o embolus? Thrombus, nakadikit o. Nakadikit o, dito sa party na to. Partial lang yung occlusion yun din sa blood vessel, pero nakadikit siya sa wall. So that's a thrombus. Correct? If you look at it, nag-organize na siya dito sa area na to. Ito may dugo-dugo pa siya. Dugo-dugo pa. Okay? Ito, dugo-dugo pa siya. Ito, nag-organize na siya. May fibrine gland ka na. Okay? Tapos, may butas ka na dito na maganda. This is recanalization. Okay? Nag-recanalize. Ito yung thrombus mo. Naka-organize na siya. Naka-propagate na siya. Tapos, nagre-recanalize na siya dito sa area na to. Can you see that? There. That's recanalization. This is the thrombus. This is the lumen of the blood vessel. This is the new lumen because of recanalization. Okay? Tingnan pa natin yung ibang blood vessel. Sabihin niyo sa akin kung hyperemia lang yun, o meron na siyang thrombus, o meron siyang embolus. O ito, thrombus yan. Tapos partial occlusion lang siya. Ito, hyperemia lang pinapakita sa inyo. Ito, may thrombus. Ayan, no? O, alam niyo na kung ano difference ng thrombus at saka ng hyperemia. O ito, may thrombus dito, may thrombus dito, tapos may lumen dito na may hyperemia also. Okay? Ito, anong tawag dito? Ito. Hemorrhage yung tawag dyan. Wala siya sa loob ng blood vessel. Diba? Pag wala siya sa loob ng blood vessel, tapos may dugo-dugugan ka, that's hemorrhage. Nasa loob siya ng blood vessel, active hyperemia or active congestion. Pag wala siya sa loob ng blood vessel, hemorrhage. Ito may blood clot sa loob ng blood vessel. That's thrombosis. Okay kayo? O, next slide na tayo.
Ano ba? Slide natin.
Yun ang subclavian.
Ano dyan?
Slide subclavian. And returner.
Ano ba itong M03? Ano to?
Coagulation necrosis po placenta.
Coagulation necrosis placenta.
Ah, nakita na natin ito kanina, yung white infarct. Okay? Placenta, chorionic villi, ghost outlines over here. Some of them still have nuclei, but most of them, you only see the ghost outline of the chorionic villi. No more nucleus present, but still with architecture. Coagulation necrosis causes hypoxia. In this case, that is also called a white infarct. Okay? What is seen in white infarcts is coagulation necrosis. Why? Because white infarcts are caused by occlusion of a blood vessel. And an infarct is caused by hypoxia of the tissue. So if you have occlusion of the supplying blood vessel, you naturally will have an infarct. If you have a solid organ, that will be a white infarct. If it is a hollow organ, it will be a red infarct. If the blood vessel block is venous in nature, you will have a hemorrhagic infarct. If the blood vessel block is arterial, usually you will have a white infarct except for the hollow organs or except in areas with two blood supplies, like the lungs and the hand. The extremities, it has two blood supplies.
Normal. Okay, next. Ano to?
Liquefactive necrosis, soft tissue po.
Liquefactive
Liquefactive necrosis, soft tissue.
Liquefactive necrosis,
Soft tissue.
naturo ko na sa inyo. Naturo ko na yan.
Okay na yan.
Puro neutrophils, tapos may necrotic debris, may dugo, walang architecture. Tama? And incaciation necrosis, pink lang na pulbos-pulbos, wala
Wala na ba?
halos cell sa tabi.
Wala
Tapos Usually katabi niya ang
Marami pa po
granuloma.
yan.
Alin ba dito yung ano? Anong module na?
Tapos na ako sa 1. Tapos, hemodynamic na yun.
Tapos na po yata yung hemodynamic.
Vein, thrombi, lesion, recanalized thrombus. Tapos na yan.
Sana.
Inflammation na tayo.
Okay, okay.
Inflammation na ba kami?
Yeah.
Appendicitis po, 15.
Yung acute appendicitis sa inflammation, tapos na natin, di ba? Yung mga margination, chuchuchur ba? O, tapos na tayo doon. Acute appendicitis, liquefactive necrosis, you can recognize. Chronic inflammation of skin and granulation tissue with granulation tissue formation. M10, 19. Okay, pakita mo na yung taas. Organ, skin. Tama? Epidermis, dermis, and in the hypodermis. Is there something wrong with this? Wala namang masyado except for the RBC seen here. Okay? If you go into the hypodermis, ito yung sweat glands of you. Ito, hair follicles lahat mo. Ito, sweat glands. Okay? Tapos, nagpunta ka sa hypodermis, na-expect mo, taba yung makikita mo, tsaka fibrous tissue. But instead of the fatty portion together with fibrous tissue, what do you see? Lots of violet dots. Higher magnification shows you that the dots are actually inflammatory cells. Okay. Eto na. Marami kang macrophage. Ito ang itsura ng macrophage. Mga matatabang cells. Maraming cytoplasm. Marami siyang kinain-kain doon.
So, baka pwede ba yung
Okay? Macrophage, macrophage, macrophage. Chronic inflammation is defined as a simultaneous injury to the area and healing in the area. Here you see lots of macrophages engulfing necrotic debris which was not engulfed by the neutrophils. Kasi ang neutrophils, maliliit na particles lang ang pwede niyang kainin. So kung kailangan mong kainin yung malalaking bulok na parte, tatawag ka ng macrophage para ma-clear mo yung area of necrotic debris. Ito, maraming macrophage na tinawag. Aside from the macrophage, what is in the area, you have these fusiform cells with elongated nuclei depositing a pink material. What are those cells? They are fibroblasts depositing collagen. Okay? Aside from that, you have lots of nutrient and oxygen suppliers. How will you deliver nutrients and oxygen to that area? Kasi ang daming worker cells. Pero mga fibroblasts na nagde-deposit ng collagen, tapos meron kang macrophage na kumakain ng mga bulok. So, paano mo siya pakakainin? Yung fibroblast mo, tsaka yung macrophage mo. Kailangan mo ng RBC na oxygenated blood. Diba? Paano mo magpaparating yung maraming RBC ng oxygenated blood sa area? Kailangan mo gumawa ng mga maliliit na blood vessels, capillaries. So you have lots of capillaries. Focus. You have lots of capillaries in the area. Yan, yun. Marami talaga. You have lots of macrophages. You have fibroblasts depositing collagen. That is a granulation tissue. Okay?